Even at the time of death, anyone who departs by giving up the body while thinking of me, that's reality alone, attains the state of reality. There is no doubt about that. O Arjuna, thinking of any entity, whichever it may be, one gives up the body at the end. He, having always nurtured his thought, attains that very entity. Therefore, think of me at all times and fight. There is no doubt by dedicating your mind and intellect, you will surely attain me. He speaks about the state of attainment. Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredhya Sarvasya Dataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastar. He who meditates on the omniscient one, the ancient one, the ruler, who is subtler than the subtle, who is the ordainer of everything, who is of inconceivable form, effulgent like the sun, beyond darkness. At the time of death, by becoming imbued with devotion and the strength that comes out from meditation, fully fixing the vital life forces between the eyebrows, meditates on that supreme reality with an unswerving mind, he reaches that resplendent supreme person. This is the doctrine of departure, how we depart. It's how we live our lives determines how we depart. If a person is devoted to truth, seeks reality, that person will realize that which was a predominant thought in his whole life. Thank you.
Welcome to the celebration of the life of Reverend Rodney Clark Rogers. I will begin with the reading of the Office of the Dead, a collection of selections from the writings of Swami Vivekananda and the scriptures of various world's religions. I am the resurrection and the life, saith the Lord, and he that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Let us now feel the presence of Rod in him who dwells in all beings and in whom all beings dwell. How desolate is the city, how lonely is the household now. The fountain has dried up, the lamp is extinguished. Our fire has gone out, and the ashes are scattered upon the hearth. For now the hand of the potter has shattered the vessel that he made. He has covered the face of our beloved and hidden it with a veil. Infinite time has received the hurrying soul, and our love cries out in vain to stay the hand of death. In the gardens the flowers have withered, and the birds have lost their song. The stars are overcast because your eyes have lost their sight, and your feet will never be heard again upon the threshold. You were with us, and now you have left us alone. Hear now, beloved, hear once more before you start upon your journey our salutations and farewell. Forgive us now. Forgive us for all you suffered, the pain and the loneliness. Forgive all our anger and impatient thoughts. Forgive us for every failure to love and for every failure to express our love. Forgive us for all you lacked in life and for all that you lack in death. Forgive us for the labor that left you weary and for the love that failed to comfort you. Forgive. Now let us tenderly remember all the days of your past. Let us not forget any act you did that was helpful, generous, kind, courageous, and selfless. It is wonderful indeed to remember that journey we made together. You are very holy to us now in the presence of death. Know now how much we love you. Until we too are wrapped in death, may we never forget to send you our constant aid through love and prayer. Know that love is stronger than death. Many waters cannot quench it, nor can the floods overwhelm it. Your hand is not unclasped from our hands, nor has your name vanished from the life of our hearts. Of this be certain, our longing and the strength of our love cannot fail to reach and give you strength under God's will here and hereafter. Now rest, dear one, and be at peace. Then wake, arise, and share our prayers now and in the hour of death and forevermore. Go now and be made one with the company of the saints. Leave all your imperfections behind you and know the fulfillment of your heart's desire. May the gods of high heaven be your protectors on the path that you tread before us. May the gods of high heaven be the protectors in the dwellings of the righteous. Go forth now like a happy traveler to distant lands and lands more distant, onward from light to light, from glory to glory. Go forth by those same paths trodden by men of old, the paths that all must tread, each child of woman according to his deeds. For death is certain for the born, rebirth is certain for the dead, but the indwelling God can never be destroyed. Bodies are said to die, but that which possesses the body is eternal. That reality which pervades the universe is indestructible. No one has the power to change the changeless. O great and mighty dead, O happy dead, for unnumbered ages the world has been weeping for its dead. But weep not for the dead, weep rather for the living, for they have yet to die. Worn out garments are shed by the body, worn out bodies are shed by the dweller within the body, and new bodies are donned by the dweller like garments. When we consider that which is past and that which shall come hereafter, we see how men reach their end in the ripeness of time, like the harvests of the fields. We see how they come forth again as the harvest comes forth. O terrible dark night, O night of delusion, O night of death, to you also our salutations. We salute you. We salute you. And now, I'd like to invite sharings of remembrances. And first, Jonathan, would you come forward? And I don't know if this light is adequate or not. You can remove this if you like. Perhaps it's probably better. You can come around.
Welcome, and thank you all for coming. I'm so happy that you're here. First of all, I wanted you to know that before I read this paperwork here, that Rod was a really happy person in general. And this is a happy occasion. And we have great communication. And later I'll tell you communications that I had after he passed away that would probably go into the area of metaphysical, which he was, a metaphysician. Anyway, I want you to know that his spirit is happy, and I know this for a fact, okay? So I want everybody to enjoy the beautiful day of today, and then also enjoy afterwards what we have in the other banquet room, okay? Thank you. So Rodney Clark Rogers was born on Gandhi's birthday. That's October 2nd in 1931 in Kansas City, Missouri. Both he and his mother Ann were actually given last rites during his birth. Yet both were destined to live long and potent lives. Annie lived to be 96 years old, and Rodney was 88 when he passed away quietly at home in Burbank, California, this last September the 9th. That's 9/9/2019. Now, when you add all those numbers together, it becomes a 3. That's the sacred number of the Trinity, the Godhead, and the family, the Father, the Mother, and the child. Rod was definitely a precocious child growing up in San Antonio, Texas, and often referred to himself as a, quote, fearless young daredevil who would try just about anything. His older sister Sally and brother Charles watched with amazement his early magic tricks and dramatic antics. Rod would practice balance walking atop wooden fences and along the ledges of tall buildings. Once, thinking he could fly, thank you, helicopter, sound effect. Rod was sound effects, remember that. Thinking he could fly, he jumped from a rooftop into a pool, missing the bamboo grove growing just below that would have, quote, skewered him like a shish kebab, according to the doctor who treated his 3 broken ribs. Okay? Rod credited his adventurous nature to the many movie star heroes he loved to watch at the beautiful, majestic theater in San Antonio. He was absolutely mesmerized by Zoltan Korda's Magical Thief of Baghdad, the first movie he had ever seen. Later, as fate would have it, Rod worked with and became a close friend to Nicholas Korda. That's Zoltan's youngest son. But I'm jumping ahead. Escaping to the movies is what people did then, and there was no television or the internet or smartphones. And like many fans, Rodney became enamored with screen stars like Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, Rita Hayworth, Hedy Lamarr, and especially Lana Turner, whom he referred to as the ultimate movie goddess of beauty. He decided at age 15 that he was definitely bound for Hollywood to become an actor and hopefully meet Lana Turner one day. He believed that being a movie star was the most glorious profession one could ever aspire to become. Naturally, Rod went for it at every chance he could afford, taking acting classes, dance classes, fencing, gymnastics, equestrian. He even learned to swallow fire from a circus performer he had befriended. He wanted to run away and join that circus that came to town. As a boy, Rodney broke with the local social norms at the time in that his 2 best friends were a young black boy and a young Mexican boy. Rod didn't mind riding in the back of the bus with them or being ushered up into the furthest seats in the top balcony of the theater. This is Texas in the 40s. He was just a happy-go-lucky kid who would rather daydream in a field of wildflowers or explore a stream by himself than to play baseball in the field with the other jocks. He grew to love theater, art, classical music, science fiction novels, poetry, and foreign films as an eager young student who wanted to both entertain and be admired. Rod was well received in the many plays he performed in high school and had developed a distinctly resonant baritone voice, not unlike movie star Vincent Price. Everyone admired Rod's voice. And yes, he actually did meet Vincent Price once when the actor was promoting House of Wax in San Antonio. The scenario looms large in his personal lore, but I can reveal the details nevermore, because Rod was always a most private person. Taking extra summer school sessions, he graduated early ahead of his class and then drove an old Chevy all the way to Hollywood, California with his then sweetheart, Kay, and her mother, Dorothy. No, we are not in Kansas anymore. As the story goes, Rod soon realized that he'd be drafted into the Army for the Korean War, the Forgotten War, right? So instead, he quickly joined the Air Force, and ironically, they stationed him back in Texas, this time at a secret base just outside the city of Dallas for a 2-year stint. Rod ran the film projector for the entertainment unit, he designed the newsletters, and he made friends with everyone. He was also allowed to continue performing on live television and live radio while off duty from the base. Now, after his honorable discharge, Rod was hired as a popular disc jockey for classical station KIXL in Dallas. The audience loved his velvety voice, and he even entertained several marriage proposals while he was jockeying the airwaves. Thus began his appreciation of classical music and the many talented composers whose names still seem obscure and maybe a bit hard to pronounce. But Rod was perfect fit for this daytime gig, and at night he continued acting in plays at the Margot Jones Theater in the Round, garnering critically acclaimed accolades. It was now 1962. And that's when Rodney decided for a second daring move back to Hollywood, this time with his new best buddy, Henry, a savvy salesman from New York whom he befriended in 1959. Hollywood was filled with beautiful people, and this city was their neon playground, chock full of fun and fanciful friendships that were both endearing and enduring. Rod's friendship with Henry, spanning over 3 decades, brought a lot of love and adventure to his early life. There were vacations to Hawaii at Christmas time, trips to Europe, even a cruise down the Nile in the presidential suite, with daily offerings of fresh-cut flowers, fine wine, and creamy Godiva chocolates on the pillow at nighttime. In Giza, Rod bribed a guard and was able to meditate within the Great Pyramid alone in the king's chamber for 10 minutes. He visited Versailles and the Louvre Museum in France. He toured Rome, Milan, Florence, Venice, and Amsterdam. They sailed to Turkey and Greece and visited the island of Mykonos in Crete. Rod walked the Holy Lands and gathered stones from the Jordan River and the Garden of the Garden of Gethsemane and Mount Golgotha. He loved Jesus, and he loved Siddhartha the Buddha, and he loved Krishna, and the epic Ramayana, and the symbol of the Om. Rod was a frequent devotee visitor at Vedanta when Swami P was head Swami here. His American Indian name was White Flying Star. And he was named a medicine man in 1973 and later became a licensed minister, Reverend Rod Rogers. He performed 2 weddings and a funeral. Sounds like a movie. The name Rogers actually means red spear. I used to call him my red feather guide. His nickname in school was Sage. And yes, he was indeed a very wise man when we first met in 1986 through a mutual friend named the Owl. The three of us called ourselves a trinity and had many memorable experiences at Owl Mansion, just behind the Chateau Marmont Hotel on Sunset Boulevard. The Owl was a fascinating man and a longtime friend of Rod's, who worked as the managing sextant of the iconic Hollywood First Methodist Church right down Franklin and Highland. Both of us truly respected and admired Rod's genuine creativity and literary ambitions. He was an aesthetic perfectionist and understood so much about line and balance and design. After all, he was a Libran. I saw the artist with him instantly and helped cultivate his art and his soul. He never stopped being dramatic. According to him, that would have been boring. And so he constantly entertained my attention for over 30 years. Now, we are right here in the heart of Hollywood. And becoming an actor is no longer a factor in the larger scheme of things because everything is just temporary, right? Everything is on loan. And although we sense our own spiritual infinity as part of the spark and magic of life itself, we all must eventually turn to face our Creator and reckon with this lifetime's round of experiences, both good and bad. Karma always played a big role in Rod's life. His physical death is not an end, but a continuous thread of existence, which is actually an integral part of a grand tapestry that we can only perceive from a relatively small point of view. We are multi-dimensional beings, and like Galileo's telescope, the ever-expanding nature of this universe will reveal more knowledge to us with time and share more of its secrets, shining more of its light into the minds of human race, opening our hearts up to unconditional love, the greatest emotion gifted from our Creator. Rod was a highly sensitive, psychic man. Most people don't understand what that really means, but it refers to achieving a state of superconsciousness, where sometimes information is relayed during a trance. Rod helped many people in a pure and gentle way with his ample common sense and intuitive insights. He also treasured kindness above all other human personality traits. He tolerated a few liars and exaggerators in his circle of friends, but never embraced those manipulations. He saw right through anything inauthentic. He always forgave and expected forgiveness as well. His honorable character was indeed noble, if not envied by many others who recognized his magnetic and attractive personality. Rodney had the power to command a room full of people with graceful ease. Yes, the master of ceremonies in the theater of life beyond any limited stage. Rod most often said the right thing at the right time to make a person feel both charmed and disarmed. His sparse and witty sense of humor was usually spot on, and his burst of uncontrollable laughter was always a joy to hear. For him, sound became a career. And like most ambitious people, things fell into place. He was magically blessed with an air of outward confidence. As the sound librarian for Paramount Studios in the late 70s, he selected the special effects used for the Star Wars' first film. Rodney eventually racked up 43 credits as an assistant sound editor on many beloved films, 14 by Steven Spielberg, 6 of those personally directed by the legendary icon himself. Back to the Future, 1, 2, 3, The Color Purple, Spies Like Us, Schindler's List, Lady Hawk, Roger Rabbit, Hook, The Lost Boys, Amistad. The list is long and impressive. I toured around with Rod to all the movie studios, Paramount, Universal, Amblin, and Warner Brothers. I was invited to cast and crew screenings and amazing rap parties, private screenings at Walt Disney and the Directors Guild. It was all great fun, as people in the industry well know. Above all else, Rod was a true gentleman who had class. He held the affections and appreciation for both men and women in his lifetime, and always stressed the concept of the truth. As a Libran, he made sure beauty and balance were always present within his realm. Quote, "My pleasures are simple and my needs are few," was one of Rod's favorite sayings. In fact, Rod had just one simple request for this day in particular, and that was for a lyric to be read. The Impossible Dream from the musical Don Quixote. It is a bit melodramatic. I'm not going to sing it, but I'll read it, and then I'm going to read you something special, and then I will finish. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far. To fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strolls with the last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. He wrote that as his wanting to be read in 1976, which is a long time, and before I met him, okay? I think he changed his feelings about it all in the end. But may God bless everyone here, and also those who could not attend this memorial celebration. His 3 nieces, Kathy, Eileen, Karen, and their brother Jeff. They all wish they could be here today, but unfortunately distance and personal circumstances prevented them from attending. I know they're here in spirit. My special thanks goes to devotee Brother Myron Goldsby, who has been a constant personal friend for decades and was here to assist me through a most difficult time. I am also very grateful to all of the brothers and sisters here at Vedanta who make this beautiful temple such a peaceful and sacrosanct place to meditate and reflect. Swamis, I'm in debt to your kindness and generosity. I know Rod's spirit is happy right now. And now I want to read you something that I found. It's called Alphabetically Speaking by Reverend Rod Rogers. Has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's an alphabet. A smile shows you're happy, a frown makes you down. B, be honest, be true, and always be you. C, care about your parents, care about your school, care about yourself, and don't be a fool. D, do what you can to help others in need, and be a good sport, and do a good deed. E is for effort, education, and ease. Excel in all 3, and you certainly will please. F, forget frustration, failure, and woe. Pick yourself up and let yourself go. That sounds familiar. G, goodness is great, giving is greater, and love to them both, and don't wait until later. H, happiness comes easy when you have peace of mind. Keep it, don't lose it, or you could fall behind. If you do something out of love, you will love what you do. J, journey into your mind and you will find that not all of your thoughts are blind. K, keep faith in your beliefs. Believe in your heart, then nothing can take these two apart. L, look for the good in all, and certainly the bad will fall. M, make peace within. Don't offend, and you will win in the end. N, nobody knows what you suppose, so make it clear and hold it dear. Sorry. O, open your eyes to the truth. You won't be surprised what you find. Honesty can be kind. P, put the negative behind you, let the positive prevail. Whatever you do, don't put your soul up for sale. Q, quote what you may, but don't change the words. Keep the message clear. Don't let judgments interfere. R, repeat the good, dismiss the bad. Remember, satisfaction can be had. S, seek your goals, follow your dream. Life is not as tough as it may seem. T, take time to be sublime. To be kind is not a crime. U, understanding, respect, and compassion are the traits of an honorable fashion. V, voice your opinions and desires, fight for your rights, and never lose sight of your might. W, words are easy, thoughts are free, but actions speak louder, as you will see. X, extra kindness and extra care. X marks the spot when you are there. Okay, we're coming down to the wire here. Y, you are the master of your own device. Uphold with integrity and keep it nice. Amen. Z, zero is as low as you can go. So sow what you will and watch it grow. Thank you, Reverend Rogers. I love you. Now I would like to invite, please, anyone else to please come up to the microphone now at this time to say a few words, if you will, to honor Reverend Rod during this time. Thank you. This is being on tape.
Do I push a button?
No.
Oh, good. It's nice to see you all here. I met Rod on his 31st birthday. And I was invited by friends to go up and meet him and his friend, Henry. And Henry said, "Oh, Rod can't come down. He's in bed. He knocked his back out." So I went up, and there he was, lying in this narrow twin bed, very positive, and we became friends right away. The only spiritual thing we ever shared was Christmas 1965. He painted for me a gift, a very large painting of a nun in a black habit walking down a long lane all by herself, and he titled it Nun Alone, N-O-N-E. And of course, I cherish that very much. Our relationship was, my education was science. So although I was involved in show business, it was always from a different aspect than he had. So we made a good team. And we celebrated all of our birthdays and hopefully Christmas. There were some disruptions in the early 80s. I moved away from West Hollywood. But we managed most of the birthdays. We always celebrated. And we celebrated at places that he loved, Scandia's, Chasen's, Musso and Frank's. And the last birthday was his birthday, 2018. So we were very close. And sometimes it was just maybe 4 or 5 of us, 6 of us. But it was a friendship that lasted. And there are many stories when you cover 57 years. Okay. So I can't tell all of them. But I will say this. He's the only person that I've ever been with that I have laughed until I've fallen down. And it happened more than once. And we both talk of that, and I will think of that in the future. And I'm glad you're all here, and I know he appreciates you being here.
I've known Rod for about 4 decades. We met at Todd A.O. when he and his crew were working on Romancing the Stone. We bumped into each other, and there was like an automatic magnetic attraction. This tall, gorgeous, fully bearded, hair out to here, Tarzan, and I just became pals. And we knew what we were to each other, but friends, that's what we were. And as this gentleman just mentioned, the laughter never ended. It started and never ended. And I'll just share one little story that when we were living kind of close to each other, he was up on Vista Street. And they were living in a courtyard, right? And there was this long lawn in the center, and the court was like a short horseshoe. So we were feeling no pain one night and enjoying a little bit of, I guess it was Irish coffee and a few other things. And we decided we were going to fly. We were going to try to teach each other how to fly like a bird. Now, thank God we were only on the ground floor. So we started off all the way in the back and headed towards Vista Street. We ran as fast as we could to see if we could, get the wings going. And we ended up falling flat on our face. But we laughed and laughed, and we rolled on the grass that night and laughed. And it was a clear night. Stars were out, and it was magical. And Rod, on 9/9/19, went back to God. It was one of the hardest days of my life because I lost. He was a pure soul. There was nothing phony about him, there was no fabrication. He was the real thing. And that's what I'm going to miss the most. His honesty, his genuineness, and he was just a magic man. And I feel honored that I can say that he was my friend. Thank you.
My name is Joe Montaigne. I didn't know Rod very long. When I met Rod, along with my wife and rest of my 2 daughters, he was already, speaking of myself as someone who's not the youngest guy in the room, he was already, I would say, an elderly man. The reason we met him was through Jonathan, because Jonathan was an art teacher. And we were looking for someone to teach our daughter, who has autism and seemed to have a flair for art. But anyone who understands people who are on the spectrum, it's not the easiest thing in the world sometimes to work with young people who are on the spectrum. And so when we met Jonathan, we felt this was a very special kind of human being who not only was a gifted artist, but who understood what it took to work with someone like my daughter was. And through Jonathan, we met Rod. And so what started as just someone who was basically an art teacher for our daughter turned into something quite a bit more. And what was very sweet and important for me was to see the relationship that he and Jonathan both developed with my wife and my daughter. And in many ways, just due to the time frame and that I would be busy and I couldn't be as involved on a day-to-day basis as they were with him. But the times I would get together with them all, and I would see how this friendship just grew and grew, and saw that these two men had this gentleness about them and this sweetness about them and this understanding that was just so, it just made you feel good every time you walked into their presence. And I especially remember we had them out at a home we have out on the ocean, and they spent the day with us. And afterwards, Rod wrote this beautiful note, beautiful letter to my wife. And it's the kind of letter that when you read it, you say to yourself, gee, I wish I could have written this letter to my wife. Because it was just it so much came from his heart and so exemplified the kind of person that he was. And I have to say this, I'm not the most religious person in the world. I would like to think I have some spirituality. But I felt something today, and I commented about it to my wife as we drove in and then walked into this place, that I thought something about it, and I started to read up about it in the program and went online even to read about it, and how someone had said that it had these good vibrations, and it really does. And the vibrations that it has seem so in keeping with the kind of person that Rod was. And I think the real beauty of him and his life is that the impact that he could have on people like my family, who he knew for such a very short time, and yet I can certainly relate to what those who've already shared comments who have known him for, over half a century. And I think that's the best testament you could possibly say about anybody. So on behalf of my whole family, we're honored to have had him as part of our life.
I've known Jonathan and Rod for quite some time, and I really love them. And they'd always come over for Christmas dinner, and they'd both be so charming to my friends. So personable. And Rod had the most beautiful, mellifluous voice, and I'll always remember it. That's all. Very sweet man.
Good afternoon. Hi, Jonathan. Perhaps I'll be the less likely person to hear from someone who knows Rod, but as an immigrant who came back in 1990, I got the pleasure to meet Rod and Jonathan through a wonderful human being. And I prepared this, but it just, to me, feels like there's an opportunity to meet great people in the world, right? Certainly, Jonathan and Rod made that kind of connotation, both of them together. When I met them, they really exude this kind of peaceful moment in our life. A moment to love and affections, as somebody else mentioned. And you don't witness that quite often. You see couples holding hands, throwing kisses to each other, keep a kind of note, a glass of wine, but they do sort of give you that ability to show them how much they love each other. In celebrating his passing, I like to say that we're always going to keep that thought, feel selfish about it. Selfish because that's a memory they're going to have forever. What a beautiful human being that I got just lucky to be in a sparkling star. Met him once, shared the love for pictures, sound. We talk about Star Wars forever. Lonely nights, I was able to identify myself, the only Hispanic guy among white people. He come to me, talk about things about Mexico, travels. And not just with me, the people who came to the party were wearing a huge, big back in the chest because a lot of people don't know them. He's so compassionate to talk about any stories. He was able to identify with anybody in any level or form. Even though you can tell he doesn't know anything about it, he was able to do it with that deep, commanding voice. Do you want to hear more about it? Voice that can read more stories to me that night. So that's the Rod that we met. That's the road that we think about it, and we're always going to think about him too. We got lucky to have you guys. Look, people who touched his seat. And think of the opportunity to say this about him. We love him.
My name is Vicky, and Jonathan, someone told me to read the poem that's on this invitation. When I saw this picture of the sun and the stars, I told Elias, I know Jonathan is the sun. And then he said that Rod is the star. So this is Rod saying these words through me to you. You know it. But here it is. The sun and the star. What better way to tell us? Nationwide, no less. All the symbols and subtle messages, leaving very little to guess. How right it is for you and me to live together in our fantasy. To sail the skies with open eyes, to love one another wherever we may be, forever we may be, together happily. Love you I do, deeply and true. You color my day with brilliance and shine. Like a star I fly within your sky. We never die, you and I, for we have lived before and loved before, but I can't remember where or when. Rod.
Hello, hi. I'm Michael, and you just heard from my wife Amanda, who both had the pleasure of Jonathan and Rod's company for 25 years or more now. And he was the best man at our wedding. And we've worked with him probably for 30 years in show business, in the art field. And although I hadn't had the opportunity to work with Rod professionally, he was a very dramatic and memorable person who we respected a great deal. And he was a tremendous personality, as you probably all know. But he was a remarkable person that we'll never forget. and that goes for Jonathan as well. I thank you both for being here on this planet and affecting us the way you have. All the best, my friend.
Good evening. The first correction I want to make is that my husband said that many times he was the only Hispanic. No, many times it was two Hispanics there. And yet, Rod and Jonathan never treated us as outsiders. They always made us feel that we were part of the family. In such a way that we would just, it was amazing that he cared so much. He would pick up on whatever conversation we had had the last time we saw each other. And this is the one thing that I would love to share with all of you. I was working for this company for over a decade, and I was going through hard times, and he asked me, "So how are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I just feel so bad that I'm going to have to leave this place that has given me so much, but I feel like I need to leave." And he said, "Wait a minute. Did they make you or did you make them?" And I said, "Oh, I feel that they made me. They gave me an opportunity to learn so much." And he said, "Wait a minute. Are you doing a great job there?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that's what they tell me." "Then they didn't make you. You made them. Now go on and make somebody else." And I took that. I went somewhere else. He gave me so much confidence. That was the person we knew. That's the person we're embracing today. And I am honored to have met both of them. Thank you, Jonathan, for making us part of this celebration of his life.
We shall continue into the inner space of time, magic, and wizardry.
There's probably more I can tell you just off the cuff without... No, I want that as background music. Rod loved to go to the Renaissance Fair, and we would dress up as wizards. Once I dressed up as Phoebus the sun, and everyone was at my feet wanting my photograph. And also with the owl, who lived in Hollywood, in the Owl Mansion. He had thousands of owls. He collected them. He was on Huell-Hauser. Every year they would celebrate the Titanic, the survivors of the Titanic when it went down. They would light candles. They invited me one time to go down to the beach in Malibu. And that's what we did. And we kept trying to keep the wind from blowing the candles out, which was very difficult. But he was dressed in his top hat and tails. Very interesting what people sort of think about and obsess about. He collected owls. Rodney collected camels. Lots of camels for Jonathan to dust. And then I collected suns. So when we decided to get together, we had camels and suns, so we did Egyptian, Moroccan, and Renaissance, okay, in our little house. But still, we had a colorful and wonderfully artistic, gentle relationship. An apology, if we knew there was a transgression. That takes a lot of moxie for most men who don't want to admit that maybe they've done something wrong. He was a normal, regular person. We all have our own faults and flaws, but we overlook them when you love someone. And let's just say we had great communication that went beyond. And he has communicated with me afterwards. And he's told me that he's in heaven with God. And when I returned his communication devices, okay, to Charter, I'm sitting there in an office filled with people waiting to get waited on, and I put my name down, Rodney R., okay? They called after 10 minutes, Rod. So I pick up my things, and they said, no, it's not you. It's that Rodney sitting next to you. I'm like, oh, coincidence, huh? So another 10 minutes goes by, and what happens? They call Rodney again. So I pick up the stuff. I'm going to, no, it's not you. It's the other Rodney sitting right next to you. I'm like, please. I said, is your name Rodney? He says, yeah, my name's Rodney. So I was like, that movie, or that television show, Truth or Tell the Truth. Who's going to stand up next? So when they called Rodney again, they said, Rodney, I knew it was me. But I also knew Rod was communicating with me that he was with me. He was to the right of me. He was to the left of me. He was in the center of me. Okay? So, his spirit is definitely out and around, and his love is all around and abound for everyone. But I also know if I need him, I can call him and he'll come. And he'll talk to me if I want to talk to him. People might say, oh, that's in your mind. But some of us have different capabilities. Mia, my wonderful, beloved friend and student, can remember everyone's birthday she meets. And you ask her what happened in June of 1985, she'll tell you it was a Wednesday and we were here. Okay, everyone's mind is amazing, and Rod would always say that. And he had an amazing mind. So he loved the Beatles too, so it's okay. In fact, he was interviewed at the Star on John Lennon when he was assassinated 8 years later. I still have those film clips. We would go down and admire John Lennon because of his message of peace. Peace and love in the universe. That's what Rod was about. He always wanted to make people feel comfortable and good. Even if he wasn't feeling comfortable or good. He was shy, yes. If he didn't know somebody, he was kind of hesitant. But once I said, come on, let's go. What's holding you back? Let's go meet these people. He was fearless. He could wave his hand and walk into a movie theater without a ticket. He would hand them an imaginary ticket and they would take it. Seriously, I witnessed this. It was amazing. We were the conoscente. We walked in before everybody else, and they all thought we were VIP people sitting down instead of the line waiting around the block. Don't ask me how he found that. I guess it was his experiences in the theater when he was a young man, his confidences. I just want everybody to know it has been very difficult for me to lose someone, but I am making peace with it in my own slow fashion. Most people don't want men to grieve. I understand that now. I'm hoping this day will cross the T or dot the I, and I can continue to move forward with my own personal life. But Rod will always be in my life and my heart forever. There was no one like him. And I thank you once again for all being here. I love all of you, and everything you said means so much to me.
The death of one whom we love is always a great turning point in our own life, and we must try to understand it. In the midst of our natural sorrow, we must realize that this is also a spiritual opportunity. It is an opportunity to understand and see more deeply into the true nature of things, and to know what is behind the appearance of tragedy and loss. The surface of the sea rises and sinks alternately, but to the observant soul, each sinking reveals more and more of the depth and the treasures that lie hidden at the bottom. Coming and going is all pure delusion. The soul never comes or goes. Where is the place to which it shall go when all space is in the soul? When shall be the time for entering and departing when all time is in the soul? The earth moves, causing the illusion of the movement of the sun, but the sun does not move. So nature is always moving, changing, lifting veil after veil, turning over leaf after leaf of its great book, while the witnessing soul drinks in knowledge, unmoved and unchanged. All souls that ever have been, are, or shall be, are all in the present tense. They are all standing, as it were, at one geometric point. The idea of space does not occur to the soul. Therefore, all that were ours are ours, and always will be ours. They are always with us. We are in them. They are in us. The clouds move across the face of the sun, creating the illusion that the sun is moving. So nature, body, and matter move on, creating the illusion that the soul is moving. Thus it is that the instinct which men of every race have to feel the presence of the departed around them is also true intellectually. Each soul is like a star, and all the stars are set in that infinite sky, which is the Lord. In him is the root, the reality, the real individuality of each and all. Religion began with the search for some of those stars that had passed beyond our horizon. It ended with finding them all in God and ourselves in the same place. Our friend has given up the old garment he was wearing and is now standing where he always was through all eternity. Will he ever manifest another such garment in this or any other world? I sincerely pray that he will not until he does so in full consciousness. I pray that no one may be dragged anywhere by the unseen power of past actions. I pray that all may be free and have the knowledge of that freedom. But if they are to dream again, let us pray that their dreams will be all of peace and bliss. May the Lord bless thee and keep thee. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. From the unreal, lead Rod to the real. From darkness, lead him to light. From death, lead Rod to immortality. Light him through and guide him evermore with thy loving presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. All right, and as we continue to play some of Rod's favorite musics, you're all invited for refreshments and reception. The monastery living room is where we'll have the reception, and it's around back. So if you go out this door or the main doors, then you would circle back around this building. You'll see a big sycamore tree and a dark brown door, and that's the monastery door, and that's where our reception will be. And it's been a pleasure having you all here. Looking forward to meeting you at the reception.